Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Tuesday, the 15th of July. This video is for educational purpose only. There is no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. And today we will have a few US stocks to look at because they are exhibiting trend exhaustion. We have Meta here that has made a higher high here about 2 weeks ago and actually formed a top and reversal like pattern. We have bullish days here, and then we had a negative. It's not a doji, but it is a bearish candle, and then it was followed by a bearish candle. So we have a top and reversal pattern here in place, a bit of like an evening formation. There is divergence on the RSI. As you can see, the relative strength index is declining when market moved higher, and then now we have some support here around 708. If it closes below that, well, then we could see a correction at least down to a 681, possibly even a lower. So keep an eye on these support levels there. If it takes out the spike up there at 737.55, well, then it could resume uptrend. Microsoft also, it's been very strong uptrend here the past couple of months, but it looks very stressed. As you can see now, RSI declining, and we are in a trend exhaustion mode for now. There's no there's divergence on the RSI, but there's no top and reversal pattern in place. But I would say if it starts taking out the rising trend line and is basically closing below 488.70, well, then the uptrend has been reversed and we could see a correction. However, medium term, I still think there could be further upside potential. We have the 100 breaking above the 200 here a couple of days ago, and they're both rising. So underlying trend fairly strong. The Nvidia, well, it has this shooting star like. It's not the perfect one. It should have a longer shadow up here, a longer wick up here. But also here we have divergence. You can see the values are declining on the RSI, but on the actual price, it moved higher, so it looks a little bit in exhaustion mode, but let's give it a couple of days before we have something definite going on. Moving on to the actual index, we have Nasdaq 100 also here showing the divergence on the RSI, declining RSI. Market has moved a little bit higher, so we have some support levels here, and especially 22,388 is key. On the US Nasdaq CFD, it's actually pushing higher here pre-market, so it seems like we have a fairly strong bullish trend. Let's have a look at the S&P500. See if we have RSI values declining, but market have moved higher. So let's see if it can actually also push higher on the Dow Jones. There's no divergence on Dow Jones, so that is also interesting to keep an eye on, or worth to keep an eye on. 44,160 is the key support there. If we just very quickly look at the US 500 pre-market, we can also see it's crawling a little bit higher, about 0.25%. If it continues throughout the day, then we could see a new higher level here, possibly above 6,300. On the Asian market, and Hang Seng this morning up about 1% and slowly crawling higher towards 25,000. RSI currently flirting with the 60 threshold, just closing just below it, but it's broken above its rising trend line there. But if it does close above 60 threshold, which it could do tomorrow, well, then there's likely a bullish move towards 25,000. On Nikkei, well, it seems to be bouncing off a little bit from the 21 moving average here. Didn't touch the 38.2 retracement at 39,181. Can still do it, but I think it will resume uptrend. We can also see RSI turning around. If it closes back above 60 threshold, then I think it will take out the minor resistance there at 40,120, and then we are likely to see higher levels in the coming weeks. On the European market, EuroStoxx50 has bounced also this morning. Market has opened after I'm doing this video, so we are bouncing here from the 55 moving average and from the cloud area. RSI is still positive sentiment, and I think we will see in the coming days we could see a retest of this strong resistance here at 5,467. If it takes it out, well, then we are looking towards 5,600. It would be key that the RSI is closing above 60 threshold, and here we can see the actual the CFD on the EuroStoxx50 has bounced from the 50% and the 55 moving average. The DAX index also bouncing a little bit this morning here. Did yesterday, it resumed, not resumed, but it throughout the day buyers were in control, so we are opening a little bit higher, not much. So let's see if we can actually resume uptrend. We are still above the cloud and still above the 55 moving average. There's no divergence, it was cancelled here, so we are still in a positive sentiment. On the FX market, we have euro dollar that dipped a little bit lower yesterday, but still above the rising trend line. It's quite interesting actually, and still above the 50%. So now trying to bounce this morning. Let's see if it can actually bounce further. If it can move back above 117, then possibly we could see uptrend resuming. The sterling dollar, on the other hand, got hit yesterday, pushed it below the 786 retracement, and could drop to the support areas down here around 133.55. RSI in negative sentiment, so it seems like we could drop further from current levels. A little bit trying to get back above the cloud, but we are in a bit of a downtrend to the short term at the moment. Euro sterling, yesterday we talked about it. There was a great chance that it would break the resistance. It's now pushing higher, and I added a Fibonacci projection here. As you can see, it's almost reaching 138.2 projection, just below, a few cents below, pips below 87. And we can see 200% of that is almost the around the peak area here at 87.40 around this level. So it's not unlikely, I think we will see euro sterling pushing in this region there. On the dollar yen, or the yen pairs in general, we have dollar yen also crawling higher towards, and I think we will reach 148, 60, 65 resistance, possibly also taking out, but then we have the 200 moving average kind of putting a lid on here just below 150 level. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating likely higher levels on the dollar yen. Euro yen also still pushing higher despite showing divergence. It is slightly declining, but for now it seems it's still crawling higher, and we have some resistance just below the 100 or around 173. I think it will be tested. It could also be taken out, and if we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see there could actually be a medium-term potential to 175.5 area. No divergence on the weekly RSI, which is quite strong as signal. The Aussie yen also pushing towards 97.30 area, where we have some resistance, could push higher to 98, around the 161.8 projection of this corrective move here. Positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI, indicating likely higher levels. Sterling yen still in this rising channel here, and I think it will slowly resume uptrend. If it takes out the 200, well, then there is definitely potential for much more, but could set back a little bit. Aussie dollar, well, in a little bit of a retracement or correction phase here, bouncing from the 50%. I would actually expect it to drop to the 61.8. It can still do that. I would say it is range bound in the broader picture between these two lines here. It is actually between 64.85 and 65.95, so 66. Dollar Canada, oops, let's just resize it. Dollar Canada, still just slightly positive undertone or bullish undertone, but we're still negative sentiment on the RSI. There was no divergence on the RSI. So what I will do, and you can do it yourself, also draw a trend line on the RSI. If it breaks below that, it will probably also resume a downtrend, and also probably break below the 40 threshold. And if we get the dollar Canada to close back below 138.35, well, no, sorry, 136.35, a downtrend has resumed, but there's still potential to spike up to 137.45.50 level. Sterling Canada, well, could test the lower part of cloud and the lows here around 183. RSI is currently testing 40 thresholds, so that will be key for what it will do. Will it close below or not? If it bounces, then we could actually see Sterling Canada also bouncing. Euros Swiss having another go at the support there just below the 93. I think eventually it will take it out. And currently also the RSI is below 40. So if this is the scenario at the end of the day or lower, then I think we'll see Euro Swiss down to around 92.20. Dollar Swiss. Well, dollar Swiss some signs of weakness here. Couldn't even get up to the 38.2 retracement at 80. RSI still below the 40 threshold. I think it was actually just a tad above yesterday, but it is in a negative sentiment. There is divergence though, so a little bit up in the air, but let's see here. I think it will slide lower, especially also if your dollar pushing higher. And the dollar index, you can see for now, it's like it's losing maybe a little bit momentum. Could still get up to 97.86, possibly up to 98.37, which is the 786 retracement or correction level of this sell-off there. A lot of action in the metals market yesterday. Didn't look at much, but we had the gold spot testing 61.8 retracement there at 33.73. Got rejected, still above the rising trend line. So it's a little bit up in the air what it will do or not. If it takes out the peak from yesterday at 33.75 and a bit, well, then I think we will also test the 3400, which is key. If it closes back above 3400, then I think bullish trend will resume with likely higher levels to follow. And especially if we get the RSI to close back above 60 threshold. Silver, what a day it had. It looked promising for silver investors, shooting above $39, and then it totally collapsed. Now it seems like, and at one point it looked like it was really pushing lower also. So it was one hell of a ride yesterday. There's still divergence here, as you can see on the RSI, indicating trend exhaustion. But I think if we're looking at the bigger picture, there is actually potential higher we are back in this area where there's potential up to around 43, 44. So yeah, expect some correction, but the trend is bullish. If we add the Fibonacci retracement, it probably didn't get all the way down to the 38.2, but it could have done that. Moving on to platinum, still in this range here between 13.22 and 14.37. Copper also had a setback and still in this range. I would say I will actually just highlight it with a horizontal line there. If it takes out 5.42, then I think we'll see further setback. But for now, we are still in a bullish trend. There's no divergence indicating likely higher levels on copper. On energy market, we had WTI crude oil spiking higher yesterday to the 38.2 retracement at 69.50, just a tad higher, and then it collapsed, and now it could move back to test the lows down here around the 64 in this region. Then we have the 55 moving average giving some support, and also the 100. It is declining, but it will add a little bit of support, especially the 55 could slide back to that. If it takes out the peak from yesterday at the 69.65, well, then I think we'll see a push up to around 73. The Brent crude oil, more or less the same picture, but didn't get all the way up to the 38.2, got rejected just below 200 moving average and is setting back. And also here it applies that if it takes out the peak from yesterday, then there's potential to 75 plus. On the European nat gas spiked up to the 38.2 retracement here yesterday and then got knocked back, so we could see it resuming uptrend. I wouldn't be surprised. We're still in negative sentiment on the RSI, so it is likely that it will resume downtrend. The US nat gas didn't get all the way up to the 38.2 before it got tired, can still do it. but I think it will slide back also below the 200 moving average and below the 55. We have the 100 coming down, adding to the underlying bearish trend. The treasury yields, we had the US 10-year just spiking above and actually closed above the 443 minor resistance there above the cloud, but RSI needs to close above 60 threshold for really confirming the bullish trend. So give it a day or two and see what happens. Those two scenarios, it should confirm it. Yes, we are above the cloud, and we are slightly bullish trend here. You can see higher high, higher low, higher high slightly. It could still slide back into this region around 435. On the European 10-year yields, we have here, it's still hovering around the 270. It seems like really stuck in this region there. Closed, I think, just below or just added yesterday. And now flirting with it again. So if it closes this gap we saw here from yesterday, then we could see it sliding back to 265. The UK 10, well, still below the key resistance there at 468. So that's something to keep an eye on. Let me remove this one. It's not really doing anything. Still above the 55 moving average. So I think we will have another go at the resistance there. On Bitcoin, interesting development. We had Bitcoin spiking to 200% of this corrective move here. That's the projection of it, and then it collapsed. So what I will do now, I will remove this one, and then I will add a Fibonacci to here, and you can see. So I think we could see it down to the 38.2 retracement at 113,678. More or less the same picture on Ethereum. It didn't get all the way up to its projection, but I will still do this and add a retracement level to it and see what can it do. It's much lower here. If it takes out 2,900, then I think we'll see it sliding back to around 2,700. Taking out the peak, of course, then uptrend continues. And there's no divergence on the RSI on Ethereum. And there's no divergence on the Bitcoin, indicating we could see likely higher highs, but we actually have this shooting star-like pattern here, top and reversal at least for now. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.